Please, go ahead.
Well, it's good to see everyone again. Right now in Canada, it was snowing today, so the streets are turning white with the snow color, but it's warm here where we are, and I'm sending out warm greetings to you wherever you're watching this around the world. So this afternoon, for some of us, or evening for some of you watching, we're going to talk about the listening IELTS and have a chance to see what are some of the strategies and some of the ways to improve your IELTS listening score. So I'm going to start by giving you a list of some things to do, you should do, and some things that you want to avoid, to not do. And so I'll just be referring as we go through these. So during the IELTS listening exam, you will have 30 minutes and 4 sections that you'll be interacting and listening to different types of information. There will be different types of questions as well. And so let's see, how do we approach and what do we do with this? So as we're understanding the questions, we're answering the questions by looking at the correct choices. For some, we're filling in the blank. For some, we're going to be using multiple choice. And we go through, and sometimes we're like, oh, I know it's not A, but maybe it'll be B or C. So what should we be doing? So the first thing that we want to look at is to listen carefully to the introduction. Each section will have an introduction, as it says, this is a conversation between, or this is a conversation about. That title will give you a good understanding what will happen in that section. Is it going to talk between 2 people? Is it going to be in a university setting? Is it going to be with a doctor or a professional? Is it a lecture? Those types of clues will help you to start anticipating or start identifying what are the words that will be spoken and the topics. So listen carefully to the introduction, so it tells you about the information, the situation, and the speakers, who will be speaking. Secondly, use the time at the beginning of each section, so they will give you a few seconds, and you want to look through the questions and think about the topic. And so many IELTS experts, including myself, recommend, as you're looking through different questions, circle or underline the key words, and that will give you an idea, what are we looking at? Read through the instructions for each task, especially where it says maximum words. This is one of the keys where students make mistakes, and it will say no more than 2 words, or no more than 3 words. And in this section, that's where we need to identify, okay, 1 word is okay, 2 words is okay, can I write 3 words, or do I just need 2 words? As you're listening, be writing down your answers. So you're not listening to this a second time. You need to have the practice. So when you're preparing at home for the exam or in a class, as you're listening, always be writing down words that you identify, maybe details like numbers or names of people, and just get into the habit of writing that information down so that you're answering as you go along. Answer all of the questions. So maybe on question 4, you're a little bit confused, you've heard some of the information. At least write down what you guess or think the answer might be, and then we can look at it after, but always be writing in each section. You're not going to get a negative mark, or you don't get a mark taken away if you give the wrong answer. Wait till the end of the test. So with the IELTS exam, you have an answer sheet where you're going to be have the questions and the answers you're writing down. At the end of the exam, you're given 10 minutes, and you're given another piece of paper, and you transfer your answers from the answer sheet to the final paper. So don't be doing that during the exam. Like, don't finish section 1 and then start writing some of the answers, because you're going to lose concentration and you'll miss the introduction for the next section. At the end of the 30 minutes, once the exam is finished, then when you have the 10 minutes, then start transferring the answers. Write clearly, and this is key. If I'm marking the exam where it's fill in the blank questions, and so with your writing, if your writing is messy or I don't understand it, or if the spelling is wrong, you're going to get get a X. You're going to get that answer incorrect. So make sure that you're clear in your writing when you're transferring the answers. And last, check your spelling. So if your spelling is wrong, then you're going to lose the mark for that question. And so one of the practices you can be doing is to see, practice your vocabulary, the spelling of words, and then when you're transferring the answers, make sure that your words are correct. Sometimes your answers for certain questions, that word is also appearing in different parts of the exam. So you can double check sometimes, especially if it's simpler words that you should be using in day-to-day conversation already. Make sure that your spelling is a little bit higher. So those are some things you should be doing that you need to prepare and are positive things to help you guide through the exam. I have a couple of things that you should not do, and some of this is common sense, meaning it's things that you already know when you're doing exams. But don't worry if you cross out or if you change an answer. So sometimes students are afraid, oh, if I cross this out and I write something else, is that wrong or is that bad? No, that's actually good because it shows that you're thinking about it. Oh, okay, I heard this, but that's not right. It doesn't fit my sentence. I need to have a verb and instead I wrote in a noun. So I can cross it out and then think, what is the correct word to put in there? Also, don't panic. In the exam, and this relates back to the reading strategies that I've talked about a few weeks ago, in the exam, you want to answer the most correct. And so if you miss a question, just leave it and move on to the next question. Sometimes students are so focused on one question, they actually miss 3 or 4 questions. So if you find, oh, okay, number 4, oh, they're already talking about some of the keywords in number 5, just make a little check next to it and go on and be listening in order, number 5, number 6, number 7, so that you get the most correct during this exam. Don't try to rephrase what you heard, meaning write down the words that you've heard. Don't try to be changing it into different vocabulary or into a different word order. You want to, what you're hearing, those are the words that you want to be writing down in the blanks. Don't write more than the maximum number of words. I mentioned that in what you should do. Pay attention to the words and to how many words you have in each blank. So in this, it's just a reminder, don't go more than the maximum words allowed. And don't copy words printed on the question paper. So if sometimes students, they're filling 2 words from here, and they actually include 1 or 2 more words from the question itself and on their answer sheet. And that's where you could be making a mistake. You're just whatever their blank that they're looking for, 1, 2, or 3 words, just have those words that you're copying onto the answer sheet. So those are some shoulds and should nots, things to help you to be ready for the exam. I want to look at 4 strategies that will be helpful for you in order as you're going through. Just keep these ideas and strategies in the back of your mind. And so strategy number 1 is to be reading through the questions. So as the announcer introduces each section, you're listening to what is being said, and then it'll say you have 15 seconds or you have 20 seconds to read through the questions. Go through the questions, identify the keywords, and then see what type of question needs to be answered. Usually here it's focusing on a detail, a person, a place, a name, a number. Maybe it's a fill in the blank or multiple choice. Occasionally there's been matching where you have a chart and you need to put in this information into which category, but usually it's more fill in the blank or multiple choice. With this listening as well, do the easy questions. So as you're looking through there, you may not know what exactly the answer will be, but you can identify, oh, this is looking for a name, or this is looking for the year. So as you're listening, be writing down as you're taking notes the different years that you hear, and that will help you with the questions that are easier. Don't spend too much time on one question. So that was mentioned earlier. As you're going through, as you're listening, and you're stuck on one question, you're going to miss the next couple of questions. So make sure that as you go through that you're not spending too much time. And do the most right, meaning if you find one that's very difficult, make your best guess, and then from there, just move on to the next set of questions. So these are some of the strategies and some of the areas we've been looking at. Let's look at this in real practice, in real life, so to speak. So let's look at a sample listening exam. And in this section, we're going to identify and look at section 1. We'll do the listening, and then we'll give some advice or some feedback on what's happening. So I'll be talking as we go through this listening. I'll just maybe clarify as well, some of students will be studying for General's IELTS, some students will be studying for academic. The sections are very similar, and the question types, etc. So if you're practicing on an exam that says general and you're taking academic exam, that's okay. It's giving you the practice. And vice versa. In other words, if you're practicing on an academic listening exam, but you will take the general exam, it's still the same question types, still using the same types of strategies. So let's look at this exam. So if I'm given this training module, it says a full IELTS practice test. And in section 1, I identify that there's 10 questions. So in questions 1 to 5, I want to scan through this information quickly, and I want to see questions 1 to 5 where it says complete Apollo's car rentals new rental form. Okay, so this is on the PDF that says the IELTS test. So it says listening test IELTS. Okay. Okay. So with the listening test IELTS section 1, questions 1 to 10, we're going to focus on questions 1 to 5 first. So let's hear the recording. You'll hear actually the introduction for the first 20 seconds, and then we'll hear the first section, questions 1 to 5, and then we'll pause that recording.
Where's the recording?
So,
Is it on me?
Yeah.
So, because I didn't see it. Right.
So we will have the listening recording coming up shortly.
Did you send it to my email, the private one?
Yes.
I think I didn't see it.
Okay.
1 second. Okay, you can comment on something else.
Sure.
I find it now.
So,
okay, I found.
Okay.
Yes,
so as we get ready for the listening, you'll see with questions 1 to 5, I will just scan through some of the parts.
1 second.
Okay. So we're going to just make sure that it's loud enough for everyone to be hearing.
Yes. All right. It's coming from there. I hope I can take it from here. It's a technical issue.
Okay.
It's not.
Play from your computer if you have it too.
Yep, I can do that as well.
Put up your microphone.
So we're just going to prepare the sound.
Fine.
Yeah.
Yes, I got it.
Okay.
I got it.
So we're just going to. So we'll just transfer this over, and then we'll have the listening session.
It's making an echo.
So we're just going to.
Where is it?
It's on my email. Here. Take it to you.
This recording is copyrighted.
There you go.
Okay.
IELTSblog.com. Listening practice test. In the IELTS test, you hear some recordings and you have to answer questions on them. You have time to read the instructions and questions and check your work. All recordings are played only once. The test is in 4 sections, Now turn to Section 1. Section 1. You will hear a conversation between a man and a woman as the woman organizes the rental of a car. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 5.
So this is where you'll be identifying keywords, and we'll see as we go through this. You'll have here about 15 seconds. So look through the questions to identify what are you listening for.
So this is a silence period in the exam.
There is an example.
Yep.
This time only the conversation relating to this will be played first.
Good morning, madam. Welcome to Apollo Car Rentals.
Good morning. I'd like to rent a car.
I think we can do that for you, madam. How long do you want the car for?
I need it for 5 days, please.
So, 5 days is the correct answer. Now the full test will begin. You should answer the questions as you listen, as the recording is not played twice. Listen carefully to the conversation and answer questions 1 to 5.
Good morning, madam. Welcome to Apollo Car Rentals.
Good morning. I'd like to rent a car.
I think we can do that for you, madam. How long do you want the car for?
I need it for 5 days, please.
5 days. Right. Now, I'd like to take some details for you, if that's all right.
Of course.
First of all, I'll need your name.
Carol Anderson.
Is that Carol with an E at the end?
No, it's just Carol.
And you said that you want the car for 5 days.
Yes, that's right.
Next, I need to know your current age.
I'm 34 years old, 35 next month.
Happy birthday for next month.
Thank you.
Now, I need your address.
It's 28 Woodland Close, Hightown.
Do you have the postcode for that address?
It's HT85RD.
Sorry, was that HT85RT?
No, the HT8 is right, but it's 5RD, not 5RT.
All right, thanks. Now, can I take a mobile phone number?
Yes, it's 07734 618 223.
Thank you. How would you like to pay for the car rental?
With my credit card.
That's fine. Now, which dates do you want the car for?
I need it from today, the 21st, so I'll bring it back on the 25th of May. What will be the rate for that?
Let's have a look. Well, it really depends on the size of car you want.
I don't really need a very big car, as it'll just be me in it, and I don't have much luggage. However, I think a mini size will be too small, and I don't need as big as a compact. I think I just need the economy size, please.
The rate for that size car is £60 per day, and so normally it would be £300 for the period. However, we're running a promotion this week, so there's a 20% discount on that, which makes £240.
That's fine, thank you. I'll take that deal.
Before the conversation continues, you have some time to look at questions 6 to 10.
So let's just pause the recording and review questions 1 to 5. So as I was listening through this recording, I had a few seconds at the start where they said this is a conversation between a man and a woman at a car rental place. And so as I'm listening, I look through the questions. So number 1, it has client's name. Number 2, I'm looking for a number because of someone's age. Number 3, the postcode. Number 4 is how are they paying, and number 5 was the size of vehicle. So the very start with the name, she talked about her name was Carol Anderson, and then they had a conversation, and is that Carol with an E? No, it's Carol with a C, C-A-R-O-L. So they spelled out the name. That should be an easy question because every letter is being given and shown for you. With the age, sometimes there's a bit of confusion because she says I'm 34 and then she says 35 next month. So students here, well, 34 or 35. So you need to identify the signal words. The age is asking now, and the 35 was for next month. So it's the age currently or the age now that she is. when I hear, because the information as they're speaking, it's already written down. So when I hear them talking about 28 Woodland Close, Hightown, I don't need to think about that. I know that my next question, the answer for my next question will be coming after they say Woodland Close, Hightown. And so I'm listening when they say the postcode, and in this case it's a little bit confusing because there's letters and there's numbers. However, they repeated this several times also. So the HT8 5RD, and then was it HT8 5RT? Oh no, it was HT8 5RD. So you hear them going back and forth, repeating that information several times. With payment method, this is more of a logical thinking or a general knowledge question, to be honest, because how do you make payments? Often you're looking at cash, maybe a check, or a credit card, or maybe an online payment. So you only have a couple of choices. The only thing that was mentioned was credit card, and that should be a word that is common that you'll be using regularly. Then with the car size, this was the most confusing section. So in this, they talked about what I don't need, maybe I'm not having this, I will have, or I think I'll need a. So you're listening to the negatives. No, I don't need the big, I don't need a mini, I don't need a compact. I'll have economy. And so this one, I think for many students, understanding the answer is not the difficult. It's just making sure that your spelling is correct for economy with number 5. So you see how some of the shoulds and should nots that I talked about earlier, as we're going through this, it makes this a bit structured so that I'm listening, I'm following along with the questions, I see the different words and information, and from there I'm able to follow through in my practice. So this was fill in the blank questions, and so they gave us some of the information. In the next section, questions 6 to 10, here we're going to listen to this, but pay attention to the instructions. Remember I said you should identify how many words in a section. So in questions 6 to 10, in the instructions it says, answer the questions below, use no more than 3 words and or a number. So I maximum have 3, either words or numbers or a combination, in each answer that I give for 6 to 10. So we're going to listen to this part. You're going to be given about 12 or 15 seconds to glance through the questions, so be circling or identifying the key words in that, and then we'll be writing down the answers and I'll make some comments on it. So let's go to the listening for this part.
There's a silence period.
Yeah, so there will be a pause, and that's where on the screen you'll see questions 6 to 10, and just take a minute to listen, to look at keywords in that section.
That's about 30 seconds. The pause?
The pause will vary. So the question is...
Now listen carefully and answer questions 6 to 10.
Right then, here are your keys and insurance documents. There's an emergency pack in the glove compartment. It contains numbers and procedures to help you if you should run into any trouble, such as an accident or breakdown.
Is there a spare wheel as well, in case of a blowout?
Oh yes, it's in the boot, under the cover. You'll find a jack there as well, along with some instructions in case you've never changed a wheel before. It's unlikely that will happen though.
I know, I'm just checking. By the way, does the car take petrol or diesel?
It's a petrol car. We don't have any economy cars that take diesel.
And how many litres does the fuel tank take?
45 litres. Usually cars of that class are only 40, so that's an advantage.
Yes, I won't have to fill up so often. Is there a petrol station near here?
Yes, there's one just 2 blocks away on the right. You won't need to fill it up now, as it's already full, but you'll need to fill it up on return.
Right. Oh, that reminds me, I have a question about dropping off the car. Do I have to drop it off here, or can I drop it off at the airport?
Let me just check. Usually you have to drop the car off at the same place where you pick it up from. Actually, that's fine. As the airport in this town is pretty close, we accept drop-offs there.
Thank you. That'll be so much more convenient for me.
You're welcome. Is there anything else I can help with?
There is another thing that I want to ask about. I don't know the area very well, and I'd like to buy a map. Do you know a shop nearby where I can buy a good one?
There's a good shop just 3 shops up on the left. Why do you need one?
It would just be handy for getting orientation.
Well, if you just want a basic map, I can give you one for nothing. Here you are.
Oh, thank you. That'll save me buying one. Now, one final thing. I don't have a place to stay the nights that I'm here. Could you recommend a good hotel?
What's your budget?
I don't want to spend more than £100 a night.
Is food important?
Not really, as long as the breakfast is adequate.
In that case, there's a really nice motel called The Haven about a mile from the airport. It's about £70 a night with a buffet breakfast. The breakfast is fine and the place is clean.
That sounds fine.
It's on Acorn Avenue and it's number 45. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you very much.
That is the end of section 1. You will now have half a minute to check your answers.
Okay, so let's review and go through some of the clues and things that we heard as we went through this listening. So the first question, number 6, sometimes students don't get because they're a little bit confused or caught off guard. So when I had a few seconds at the start to be looking for the questions, I wanted to identify keywords. So in question 6, the keyword was in the glove compartment in that phrase, and then help with accident. So glove compartment and accident. And so in this case, the answer was before the word glove compartment. So they said emergency pack in the glove compartment, and then they talked about having an accident, they talked about a spare wheel. I don't have to be focused so much on the spare wheel or what's in the boot, because that information wasn't asked as part of my questions. So the glove compartment, the answer would be emergency pack. The fuel tank, so they talked about how big it is, and the man said it's 45 liters, and then he said usually it's 40, but in this car it's 45. So the answer is 45. Where will she leave the car? So they talked about, in places, they talked about the airport or here. The only other place they mentioned was the hotel, but that was further down at the end of this section. So in this section, in this part of the conversation, they only talked about the airport or here, and he said you can leave it at the airport. Then what does Ben give Carol for free? So they go into a conversation. She says, I don't know the area, I want to buy a map. Well, what do you need it for? Well, I need to be looking around, knowing where I'm going. Oh, well, I can give you a basic map for free. So here the question would be, or the answer would be, a basic map is what Ben gives to Carol. And then they go into a conversation about hotels. And so in the conversation, we hear the name of the hotel, the Haven Hotel, and the man says, oh, the Haven Hotel about 1 mile from the airport. And my key words there is how far, so I'm listening for either miles or kilometers, depending on which area that they're going to be talking about that in. And in this case, my answer is 1 mile. Once I've answered that question, I don't have to listen to the rest of the information. I can just review the answer. So they went on actually and talked about Acorn Lane or Acorn Road, and it's at number 45, etc. I don't have to worry about that because that's not one of my questions. I just want to focus my attention on the questions, and then I am given 20 or 30 seconds at the end to review my answers and make sure it fits, and that I'm using the correct number of words. So in this practice test, we've gone through section 1. I want to glance through section 2 and section 3, but I'm not going to do a listening practice. Later on, we can send you the link for this exam and the listening audio. But let's look down at the next page where it says section 2. And you'll see that it's divided into two parts. It has questions 11 to 14, and then those are fill in the blank, and then it has questions 15 to 20. So when I'm given a few seconds at the start of questions 11 to 14, I'm looking at the blanks. What am I listening for? So in this case, I see blank, well, I'll read the question. Number 11, the youth club's opening hours are from blank p.m. to 11 p.m. So I'm listening for hours. I'm looking for a number. Number 12, the blank of 6 individuals, administration. So something about administration and 6 people or 6 individuals. 13, the blank always needed to improve services. And 14, combination of membership, admittance fees, and help from the blank, individuals, local companies. So in my mind, I've already identified question 11 is an easier question because I just am looking for a number and a time actually. Is it going to be 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, maybe 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock? The number of individuals. Number 13 for me would be the more difficult question because I don't have a lot of keywords in that sentence. In number 14, actually I have many keywords because it talks about membership, admittance fees, individuals, local companies. So as I'm listening to those words, I'm just listing what is missing from that sentence. I use a similar strategy with the next set of questions, questions 15 to 20. These are also fill in the blank. In this case, it's different than sentences. There's a chart, but as I'm given a few seconds, I would be looking through that part for what's the homework club. So under activity, homework club, basketball, music, evening, dramatic arts, and then visits from and overnight hike trips. So I'm just using my eyes, and actually my reading skills come in handy with skimming and scanning. I'm scanning through this section quickly. So the first chart, the activities, the second chart is the times, and then under the notes. And so I'm looking and listening, okay, number 15, it will be talking about 2 hours, quiet environment, and then whatever it says next, you need to write it in. Then question 16 it'll talk about coaches, and then frequent information. 17, 3 local DJs. If you don't know what that word means, that's okay, but you're listening to the local DJs and the local blank with teaching children. So as I'm going through, I'm filtering out or ignoring some of the words and information that are in there, and other words I'm identifying and using for helping my listening with that. I'm going to I'm actually not going to look through section 3 because it's also the same with the different fill in the blank types of questions. So in this practice, many of these choices will just be with blanks, and what I've worked at helping you identify is what are some of the key words in the question, and then what are some of the words that I'll be listening for as I go through each section. I want to end off our listening strategies by looking at a couple of websites that can help you to improve your listening. And so we're going to look at 3 or 4 different websites where there's listening practice online. The first one I'm going to look at is actually a general listening website, because for some students they say that when they're doing the IELTS listening, they're only getting 15 or 20 out of 40 correct. So they're getting a low number. They need to be building up their listening skills in just general areas first, and then applying those strategies and practice to IELTS specifically. So this first website link is called esl/labs.com. And so on this site, at the very top of it talks about Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Lab. And then there's information on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. And as I move further down, okay, so the eslabs.com. So ESL, and then there's a line, lab.com. Okay, it may not be on our screen. Maybe if you can just call it up. with the that setting? Okay. So when you first look at the first section, it talks about just this is a Randall's ESL Cyber Listening Exam. So as we scroll down or move down on here, you'll see where it says General Listening Quizzes, and there's 3 columns. So easy, medium, and difficult. The nice thing with this is there's many practices at different levels for different abilities of students. So what I recommend is go and listen to some of the easy listenings. They always have a couple of questions after. If you're finding it's very slow or easy for you and you're getting the questions right, then move to the medium. From the medium, move into the difficult. And for example, with medium, if you're going through and it has 4 or 5 questions for listening and you find that you're only able to answer 2 or 3, that's the right level for you then. You need to be spending more time and go through. There's at least 20 to 30 different listening exercises in each column. If you're finding that you're getting 4 or 5 right regularly or consistently, then move to the next column, the one that's a bit more difficult. So ESLlab.com I recommend for everyone just to get in the habit of listening and be understanding information at a level that's appropriate for you. The next link that I want to look at is the website is DC IELTS. So this is a person who's been teaching with IELTS and has different preparation materials online, both on YouTube and on his website here. So when I first come to the information, it says free IELTS listening tests, and there's some advice and suggestions. He suggests doing each listening 3 times. For me, I would recommend doing it twice. So do it once, listen for the information, answer as many as you can, check your answers, and then see how many you're getting right. If you're only getting 40 or 50%, listen a second time from that. So as I move down on that page, he's divided his practices into different sections. So there's a longer title that says Dominique Coles, that's DC, that's this man's name, IELTS blog / free IELTS listening tests. And then he has part 1, part 2, and it jumps to part 4. So here is where I can be listening to different types of questions within the first section or within the second or the fourth section. So for example, in part 1, he has form filling exercise. That's a fancy way of saying fill in the blank. And advice with numbers, addresses, dates. He has a full practice with multiple choice questions and fill in the blank. And then he also has one with spelling and number problems. So that will give you more help in that first section. Part 2, part 4 that he has there. Also on his website, he has links to British Council. So if I move down a little bit further, he has several exercises for each section. So practice 1 or section 1, practice 2, and then parts 3 and 4 practice. So that will help you with the easier listenings at the start of the exam, and parts 3 and 4 or sections 3 and 4 are the harder listenings towards the end of the exam. So that's a good reference and resource for you to start with listening. The next section that I'll look at is IELTS Essentials. So this is another website that's provided for IELTS. There's many websites out there. These are just some of the better ones that I've found. So IELTS Essentials, at the start it gives you an understanding what is the listening practice. And so it talks about the different sections and what is included in the conversation. Then as I move down, it talks about IELTS listening sample tasks. And so in this section, similar to with the DC IELTS, it gives you each section with several examples, and it gives you different types of questions, multiple choice, fill in the blank, short answers. The listening is there, the questions are there, and it gives you the answers as well as you go down. So there's a few resources with DC listening and now IELTS Essentials. The last website I'm going to show you is a little bit more complicated, but it also has a bit more practices and strategies. This one is called ESOLcourses.com. So ESOL courses, that's English for speakers of other languages, ESOLcourses.com. At the very top of the page, it has starting on the left-hand side, beginners, elementary, pre-intermediate, intermediate, and advanced. For some students, they rush right in and say, I'm going to do the advanced. And I would not advise that, because I found even the pre-intermediate level, even that can be challenging for some students who have difficulty with listening. So I would recommend even start at the beginners or elementary level, because elementary here does not mean grade 4, grade 5, grade 6. In this case, elementary just means an introductory level. I will show you the example on the pre-intermediate though, so that's the link that I have opened up here. So there's different resources within it, not just listening, so I want to guide you through. So you would scroll down, and there's 2 blue sections where it says reading activities, so this would give you some reading practice and help, and then song quizzes with fill in the blank. I'm jumping over those. I'm not interested in the songs or in the reading right now. I want to go to the 3rd section, which is in green, where it has the pre-intermediate listening lessons and activities. Here in each activity, it talks about there's some multiple choice, there's some vocabulary. If I go to the 4th one down, so I have St. Paul's Cathedral, the world's greatest superfan, American superstitions. The 4th one down says how to improve your study skills, integrated skills lesson and worksheet. Okay. Okay. So on this section, if I go to the green that's down in 3 parts, and then I click on how to improve your study skills, let's look through this, because it's going to take us to several different pages. It's like looking through pages in a book. Okay, so on the first page it says how to adopt good study habits, and as I look down it gives me some vocabulary, so dictionary skills activity, and it talks about some questions. This is not listening, this is just introducing you to the words and to some questions to think about. So true or false, this is just yourself saying, oh, my study workspace, I often listen to music, I have my mobile switched off, just to get you thinking about this topic. So we would call this like a pre-listening or a pre-sample. When I move further down, it talks about next activity. So there's 2 little boxes under question 7, worksheet and next activity. So I click on next activity, and here I come up with the actual listening video. So it shows the picture of a person, and he has some earbuds in, he's listening to music, and he has some books, etc. Underneath the video, there's instructions. So it says, listen to this several times, don't try to understand everything, get a general idea of the video the first time you watch it. Sorry, I'm not reading word for word, I'm summarizing the information. Then when you've watched the video, scroll down to read the questions, then watch the video again. So it guides you through the practice. And then it has, further down, it has 8 questions. The first one is, it is important to take regular breaks while studying, true or false. So I recommend to listen to the video once, then listen to it a second time, and then go through the 8 questions and answer as many as you can. And when you've done that, then you can go back to the first screen, do another listening section, and complete all of the ones under pre-intermediate. Then go to the intermediate, do those practices. Then go to the advanced and complete those practices. This is a way of building skills. By always going to the most advanced first, that's where students get discouraged, because you're going to what's most difficult time after time. So we've had quite a series of information. I've given out lots of different pieces of advice. My recommendation is that for this section, that you listen to the first 10 or 15 minutes where I talked about what you should and should not do. Listen to that 2 or 3 times. Take some notes. We'll be attaching some links and PDFs. Then listen to the middle part of this information where we talked about some strategies and we went through some examples of an exam and how you should be listening and what you're looking for in the questions. Now in this third part, for the last 10 minutes or so, we've looked at several websites. again, there's hundreds of websites out there, but these are some of the better ones that I've found. But continue to practice your strategies, and as you move towards your IELTS exam, this will make your listening section stronger. So I thank you for joining me today, and I look forward to your questions. Please send in your information, and we will be adding updates to the links and to the comments. Also visit our YouTube channel so that you can also see all of the information there, and you can be rewatching these videos. And lastly, please share this with your friends and family and others that will be either traveling to other countries, using English in their workplace, or preparing for the IELTS exam, because these strategies will help you for all of those situations. So thank you very much, and we will see you as we move into other videos.
شكرا لكم مشاهدينا الكرام على متابعتكم لنا، وشكرا للأستاذ تريفور على ما قدمه من جهد مشكور، ونأمل لكم التفوق والنجاح في امتحان الآيلتس. توجد جميع التسجيلات على قناة اليوتيوب The Arab Immigrants، يمكنكم مشاهدتها هناك، وفي أي وقت يمكنكم أن تتركوا أسئلة لنا وسوف نجيبكم عليها بإذن الله. تحياتنا لكم فريق العمل محمد، تريفور وأنا. مع السلامة.